Poolbeg Pharma is a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company developing medicines to address unmet medical needs. It recently raised £4.9 million. And to discover what those funds will enable the company to do, I'm delighted to be joined by the Chief Executive, Dr Jeremy Skillington. So Jeremy, you recently completed that fundraise. I'd like to know a little bit more about it and what it's for in terms of value inflection points and how long that cash runway will last.
Yeah, happy to answer, Sarah. Good to see you again. Yeah, that's correct. We raised 4.9 or precisely 4.865 million gross proceeds from our recent fundraise. And this is, topping up the existing finances we had. So again, it gives a cash runway into 2027. So we're fully funded to get through some key clinical milestones of our two key programs in oncology, POLB 001, and then in the metabolic obesity space is our oral GLP-1 program. So that means we'll generate multiple value catalysts as we drive both of those programs forward into the clinic. And the financing was oversubscribed. Again, happy to see this, and I think it reflected confidence in both the Poolbeg strategy and the confidence in the management team, but also the programs that we are developing and moving forward. So we have a number, as I say, of these key catalyst milestones coming forward. We're planning to start the POLB 001 phase 2A study in prevention of cytokine release syndrome associated with cancer immunotherapies in the second half of this year, so H2 2025. And then we'll have an interim readout. These are very kind of quick and well-organized rapid studies. We're going to have interim readouts in the first half of 2026. And then we'll have the top-line data by the end of 2026, so H2 2026. So a lot of work has been done in preparation for this, but obviously a lot of work will be done as we execute on these clinical trials. The oral GLP-1, again, similarly, very rapid study, planning to begin this before the end of the year, H2. And this is, we'll have top-line data in H1 next year. So you can picture the kind of cadence. We're going to have a lot of news flow, coming up. As I say, data generation is really what drives the value of the company. And as I say, looking forward to executing on these two trials.
Okay, and we look forward to hearing about the data as and when it's generated. I just want to stick with the funding, though, because is external trial funding from strategic partners something the company's actively considering?
Yeah, I mean, a good question. I mean, considering the fundraise we've just closed, we do have funding now into 2027. So that gives us some element of comfort. So it's not necessary to seek clinical trial funding. I think what's given us great confidence is that in our discussions with pharma companies, two things kind of came out. They see what we're doing and are very excited to do it. They'd like to see the data from this POLB 001 study in patients, so that's fine. We were happy to provide them with that, and that will help them make the decisions on partnering. And then secondly, there was, two companies have agreed or, they've given us strong indications as, to give us drug to run our clinical trial. And this is, as I say, getting approvals internally in pharma companies is, there's a lot of hoops to jump through, but I think that gives us confidence. They like to see what we're doing and they're willing to kind of, as I say, to provide a drug free of charge, giving us the indication they'll do that free of charge, so we'll be able to run. So I think that kind of helps us, as I say, kind of, we see that as a validating measure that, they're keen to see us execute on this clinical trial. And obviously, the data will help make decisions on partnering, moving forward. And of course, we'll update, the markets as mentioned, these key milestones for moving forward. And we'll continue the dialogues in the background around the partnership aspects. And it's worth pointing out, we're going after, cancer immunotherapy-induced CRS. Pretty much all of the big pharma companies have either a bispecific or a CAR-T or even a tri-specific antibody that is in that cancer immunotherapy space, and they do need to manage the cytokine release syndrome associated. So really good dialogue that we've had up to now, and we'll continue to update both them and the market of our progress in the clinic.
Well, there's no doubt that strategic partner pool is global. So is a US primary listing still under consideration as part of your longer-term capital market strategy?
Yeah. I think we're no longer focused on the US right now. I think we've realized, I think over the last several months, we've got two exciting programs, two exciting assets. As I say, with this recent fundraise now, we're in a strong cash position to execute on that. So I think it's kind of, let's call it off the table for now, Sarah. But as I say, we're just very focused now on these two clinical programs and executing on those.
Okay. I am I am going to push you a bit about the partnering strategy, though. Are you pursuing flexibility by engaging multiple pharma companies?
I think absolutely. This is, you kind of mentioned, this is a global kind of, industry. And I think CRS associated with cancer immunotherapy is a global issue. So there's lots of pharma companies are doing fantastic work, doing, really important work developing drugs and therapeutics to treat cancer patients. We can, come alongside and help with managing the CRS aspects. So as I mentioned earlier, there's pretty much all the pharma companies have a role in the cancer immunotherapy space, have drugs in the cancer immunotherapy space, whether it's approved or whether it's in the pipeline. So we think that we will kind of continue to be global. We think POLB 001 can have benefits in multiple cancer immunotherapies, so not just one. So I'd say once we get that proof of concept, with that kind of one drug, as it were, we think it can be applied to others. So that should be of great interest to pharma companies who have cancer immunotherapies in their pipeline or on the market.
So we talk about proof of concept and data and value inflection points and this supplement of funding. But talk to me about whether investors can anticipate any clinical trial results or meaningful updates in the coming months.
No, absolutely. And as I say, we do appreciate, and I think we try and do a really good job of keeping the markets updated on the progress that we're making. And as I say now we're funded to 2027. We've put a lot of work into preparing these two clinical trials, POLB 001 and the oral GLP-1. And as I mentioned, starting the 001 trial before the end of the year, so that's H2, not too far away. Actually, is it tomorrow? H2 begins, but before the end of the year, we'll have the clinical trial begun is the plan, and then interim data in the first half of next year and top line data second half of next year. So nice cadence. And then, as I mentioned earlier on, oral GLP-1, similarly, starting before the end of the year, and that's an even quicker study. So we'll have the top line data in the first half of next year. So lots of news flow, lots of work being done in the background. And again, we'll regularly update the market on having this when this data is released and when we can share it. Happy to do that.
Okay, so do my job for me, will you, Jeremy, and summarize everything and tell us why investors should buy in now.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting stage for the company. I mean, you have to admit that, we've kind of made a lot of progress over the last, several months or years. And I think we're ready now on this kind of precipice. It's a real kind of inflection point where, getting these clinical trials going and up and running, numerous clinical milestones, on the fore. I think it's important as well to talk about, our discussions with pharma companies have gone exceedingly well. We have a terrific team here. My own background in partnering with both Genentech and several smaller biotech companies, and more recently with Inflazome, where we did a pretty significant deal with Roche. So we have a fantastic network from a partnering standpoint. So as I say, I think investors will see that as we progress to clinical trials, as we generate that data, then we'll be escalating those partnering discussions. I think I mentioned earlier on, having the key thing is, having the key aspect is data in patients. And that's where pharma companies are really excited to see, how POLB 001 does in these multiple myeloma patients receiving cancer immunotherapies, and how the CRS levels are managed or how they're reduced. And, as I say, we have a very efficient trial, ready to go, I say, enrolling interim data and top line data all within, the next, 18 months or so. So again, it's a very exciting time. So a lot of activity, a lot of work, and I think they should have confidence in the management team and executing. So a lot of value to be generated for our shareholders and importantly, a lot of benefits for cancer patients and patients with metabolic diseases lie ahead. So well positioned to drive in that innovation.
Many, many thanks. Dr. Jeremy Skillington, Chief Executive of Poolbeg Pharma. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sarah.